Okay, 12.4 voluntary and involuntary actions. Responses produced are either voluntary actions or involuntary actions. What are the pathway of information transmission involved in both actions? What are differences between voluntary action and involuntary actions? Table 12.2 shows the comparison between voluntary and involuntary actions. So let us take a look to this table. Okay, comparison between voluntary action and involuntary action. So both, okay, the similarity, both actions involve stimulation, impulse, neuron, and end effector organ. So both actions involve stimulation. Stimulation means detection of stimulus. Okay, impulse, production of impulse and send of impulse by the neuron. Neuron, here we have the sensory neuron, union neuron, and also motor neuron. And then we have an effector organ to produce the response. Okay, so this is the similarity between voluntary action and involuntary action. Okay, differences. The first difference, for voluntary action, actions that we are conscious of and done on our own will. In this case, we realize what we do. We know what we do. Okay, we realize. For this one, involuntary action that occur automatically and occurs without us being conscious. We don't realize when this action occur in outside our body. And then we cannot control lah. For example lah. Okay. For example, such as breathing, heartbeat, and so on, right? So we cannot control. So this one known as involuntary action. Okay, number 2, voluntary action involve the somatic nervous system, whereas for involuntary action involve the autonomous nervous system, or this one also known as autonomic nervous system. This one actually related to peripheral nervous system. So we have to write peripheral nervous system, we have to somatic and autonomic. So somatic nervous system will be we control the voluntary action, whereas for the autonomic nervous system we control the involuntary action. Okay, then part of the brain. This one part of the brain lah, part of the brain that involved. Okay, for voluntary action, controlled by the cerebral cortex or cerebrum. Okay, cerebrum. But for involuntary action, we have to control by the medulla oblongata and hypothalamus. Okay, part of the brain that control is the medulla oblongata and hypothalamus. So medulla oblongata will control the process such as breathing, right? Heartbeat. Okay, the process inside our body. But for hypothalamus, involved in homeostasis, such as regulate the blood pressure, okay, body temperature. So this the parts of the brain that involve to control the voluntary action and involuntary action. So voluntary action controlled by the cerebrum, because in the cerebral cortex. For the involuntary action controlled by the medulla oblongata and hypothalamus. Okay, so we have two parts of the brain that involve in the involuntary action. Then for the fourth difference, for voluntary action involve the reaction of the skeletal muscle. So this one usually involve the movement lah. Okay, for voluntary action. For the involuntary action, involve the reaction of the smooth muscle and glands. Smooth muscle, for example, such as peristalsis. Okay, contraction and expansion of the blood vessel. Okay, that is involve the smooth muscle lah. So for glands, they will produce hormones. Okay, will produce hormones. Okay, so this one is in the this one are the comparison between voluntary action and involuntary action. So if the question asks you to answer a question about comparison, you must state similarity and differences. And I suggest you to do it in table lah. To answer in table and make sure to write the sentence, so that the point will be clear. Okay, your points will be clear lah to the examiner. Okay, so this one for the comparison. So move on to the next. We have this voluntary action. Okay, so we start with voluntary actions. So voluntary actions involving skeletal muscle. Okay, so voluntary actions such as walking, talking, or brushing, they are conscious actions because we know, we realize when we do this action. Okay, we can control. We don't want to do or we want to do, like that. Okay. So for example, you can voluntarily raise your hands to answer a question. Now this one, when teacher asks you a question, some of you maybe will raise your hand, but some of you don't want. Okay, like that. Okay, you can control. So the voluntary actions involving the skeletal muscle are controlled by the cerebral cortex, of course, in the cerebrum. Okay. So since the information reached the cerebral cortex, that is our level of consciousness, our perception of surrounding can be produced. So when we reach the cerebral cortex, you know that the cerebral cortex control a lot of emotions, a lot of our higher intelligence, thinking, and so on. That's why our level of consciousness can be produced. We can become conscious, and then we can become aware. Okay, perception of the surrounding. We can aware about the surroundings. We can know what happened around us. That's why this is important. Why the voluntary action must be, the information must be sent to the cerebral cortex, so that we can think what we do. Okay, we can think what we can do lah, what we want to do, and so on. Okay, so the information pathway in voluntary action is demonstrated in figure 12.10. So start with the stimulus. Okay, stimulus occurs when the teacher questions pupils. So the teacher questions pupils is the stimulus. So number 2, the pupils receptor receive the stimulus and transmit the nerve impulse to the cerebrum through the sensory neuron. So of course our receptor, the pupils receptor, all will receive the stimulus, maybe sound, maybe light to see the teacher, and so on. Okay, and then transmit the nerve impulse. Okay, produce the nerve impulse and transmit to the cerebrum, to the sensory neuron. Okay, so remember sensory neuron function to transmit the impulse from the receptor to the cerebrum. Okay, the cerebrum interprets the nerve impulse to be sent to the effector. So here, sensory neuron. Okay, here we send the impulse. Okay, to the cerebrum. Then the cerebrum will interpret and send the impulse to the effector. So this means from the sensory neuron, the impulse then enter the cerebrum, and then it will enter the relay neuron. Okay, relay neuron. You must remember sensory neuron. Okay, must be connected to the relay neuron, and then to the motor neuron. This is the pathway lah. Okay, this one also occur in the spinal cord and brain. Okay, on brain and spinal cord must have this relationship. Okay, this connection lah. Okay, so the cerebrum, then from the relay neuron we enter the motor neuron. So the motor neuron will then send the impulse to the effector. So the effector will receive the information. Then the pupils will raise hand to answer the question, response. So usually we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, okay, involved in the transmission involuntary actions that involve skeletal muscle. The most important here, you must remember, start with the stimulus, and the receptor will receive and then produce the impulse, and then we send to the sensory neuron. Sensory neuron is neuron that will transmit the impulse from the receptor to the cerebrum. Cerebrum is part of the brain lah. Okay, then the cerebrum will interpret the nerve impulse, then it will send the impulse to the motor neuron, but first through the relay neuron lah, neuron, and then motor neuron, and then to the effector, and then pupil will raise hand. This one is the response. Okay, so the most important also, you must remember this connection lah, sensory neuron, relay neuron, and motor neuron. Okay, so this one for the voluntary action. Okay.